Hello and welcome to Arisen Strengths, brought to you by the JGF organization and Serenely Speaking. Arisen Strength airs Sunday nights at 8 p.m. And tonight's episode, Bullying Part 2. Last week we started the topic, and we're going to go ahead and finish it up. And so I'd like to go ahead and introduce you to our host, Shane Schultz.
Well, thanks, Wayne. I appreciate that. The greeting there. We're having our challenges, but we're waiting on Crystal. Hopefully she'll be here any minute now. Right now we got Joey, right?
I am here. Hello.
There. He's in his electric blue headsets. He's all sorts of happy on those.
Oh, yeah.
Then we've got Wayne, the hacker, and he's got his new headsets on, of which are driving us all crazy. Hello. And we're waiting on Crystal as well. So, like Wayne said, we started out with the subject of bullying, and we brought up a lot of different subjects. We brought out a lot of different emotions that were going on, and I just didn't feel like it was finished. I didn't feel like it was completed by enough. And through some of the messages that I got from our followers at Arisen Strength and at the JGF organization, as well as Serenely Speaking, it pretty much echoed what my thoughts were. The number of people kept telling me, there's a lot of different other types of bullying that are out there that you didn't mention, and I wholeheartedly agreed with them. I also let them know that we had no intention of covering every single type of bullying aspect that's out there in the world, but we were going to do more shows down the road regards to individual type of ways of bullying, and as well as the general topic. That being said, it came to the point as to where I just decided that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do part 2. It's a two show special in regards to bullying. We've got I intended this to be a little bit more calm as far as emotions go, a little bit more information to be brought into play. But I got to tell you, it's like I started doing some research, and I'm as fired up as what I've ever been in regards to this subject. So we're gonna do our best in order to make this entertaining as well as informative. And we're going to talk about bullying in a number of different ways than what we've already discussed. We've already discussed our own personal experiences with bullying. Most of them in our childhood. Some are a little bit past college and further along. We're going to talk a little bit different as far as a couple different ways. It's like when I started looking at some of the research that was out there regards to bullying in itself, I came up with that there's a whole lot of infractions that are against people with challenges that they suffer. And that kind of hit my heart, because that's what Arisen Strength is all about, is about our challenges. Well, I started going into these videos, and I started going into these articles out there and everything, and what I'm finding out is that there's a large portion of bullying that's going on out there in regards to people who have mental health challenges, such as autism, such as Asperger's, and other different realms that are out there. So we're going to discuss that. Then we're going to discuss something. There's a lot of pet lovers out there, and I happen to be one of them. We're going to discuss. I have a personal story regards to some abuse to a pet that I saw on a video that I really want to talk about. And then we're going to discuss some of the policies and the laws that are out there to help those who are being bullied. I think that's really important to go over, and hopefully we'll be able get to that, and then we're going to celebrate a little bit from another article that I came up with in regards to a boy named Jake, and we'll go from there. Crystal, are you with us? Crystal is trying like a trooper, but she's not with us yet. So anyways, we really want to get Crystal involved because Crystal is a parent, and she kind of has a different view of things in regards to bullying, and that's what happened in the last show. She came in and gave us a little different view as from a parent's point of view, where the testosterone boys were basically telling the audience what their experiences were, and we were all ready to say that stand up and don't let yourself be bullied out there. So we definitely are hoping that Crystal gets in on the show, but just like last week, it was meant to be the way that it is, and it'll get better, I'm sure. So with that being the case, Joey, how was your week so far?
My week was actually really well. Had a really good week, a very busy week. My weeks were always busy. Always doing research on different things, and I wanted to bring, something to the table here and say, that bullying really comes in all forms and all different types of bullying. There are more than you think. I mean, not like the ones we talked about last week. I mean, there's...
I think Crystal's trying her darndest to get in.
Yeah. But there's child abuse, which is also... There's child abuse, there's spousal abuse that we could talk about. I mean, there's a lot of different types of abuse, and animal abuse, like you brought up. I think that's a major topic. I think that's a big topic to actually bring up, especially, what they do with pit bulls. They have them fight and really maim each other, and because they starve the poor things, and then they let them fight, and they eat each other up. It's just horrible, what happens, and, there's so many different forms of bullying. I just wanted to make one major point here, and the major point is that bullying is the lowest form of ignorance out there, ladies and gentlemen. It's the lowest form of ignorance because, people who do bully have very low self-esteem, okay, have very low self-esteem of themselves, okay, and, that's why, we have a lot of this going on in our schools, a lot of this stuff going on the internet, because these people have very low self-esteem of themselves, and they have to make themselves feel better, so they put down the people that are doing good things for the world, okay, and they feel that, oh, yeah, let me add my 2 cents in, where their 2 cents, really don't need to be added. And it's usually in the form of anger or putting somebody down, and so on and so forth. So bullying is the lowest form, ladies and gentlemen, of ignorance. It's ignorance. That's all it is. It's ignorance because, people utilize the fact that they could bully somebody, especially on the internet, that they don't have to be seen. They don't have to be there. They could be as fake as they want. They could use 15 fake names, and they could bash your head in, and it could be the same person, It could be the person that you block on one name, and then come back on another name and still continue to bash you, So it's unfortunate, but it is the lowest form of ignorance, Shane. It is.
Yeah, no, I happen to agree with you. It definitely does present ignorance as one of the characteristics. I definitely agree with that. Wayne, how was your week?
Week. Oh, it was a good week. What we do? Spring cleaning. We started with the fraction.
You don't notice anything like that. So
Shane really did a
good job
helping me out here.
Cleaned up some bottles. Yeah, he had some bags that I was just collecting bottles in, and plus there were bottles just all over the floor. And
Shane returned them, and of course you have to keep the money.
But $12 in bottles.
That's a nickel a bottle. 240 bottles.
Plastic bottles, water and sodas, 2-liter bottles, cans. But it feels a lot better around here. Cleaned up the studio here. I live in the studio.
Okay, truth out. I live in
the studio. We eat dinner in the studio. I sleep in the studio. I'm not making any of this up.
The studio, it's a bedroom.
So we call it the Arisen Strength studio. It's also the VIP dining room. And it's a bedroom. But it got a little cluttered, a little filled up. But that's helped. Just clean, getting that going. And saw some interesting stories about bullying this week. I shared one or two of them on the Arisen Strength family page. There's lots of different ways to connect with Arisen Strength, with the Twitter and with the Facebook, and then with, of course, here on YouTube. But they were, the one story was not a very happy story. It was a young kid about 6 years old whose hearing aids were taken from the playground. Some other kids, and they threw them in the water. And apparently they took his 2 hearing aids, they threw one of them, and they got made into the water. The other one didn't make it to the water. So another kid ran up, got the hearing aid, didn't make it to the water, managed to throw it into the water. What is up with kids? I don't know. And the family, of course, they can't replace them very easily. They don't have the money. They're very expensive hearing aids. They're especially programmed too. His hearing, he misses certain frequencies, so they have to go in and boost certain frequencies. It's not just a matter of boosting all the frequencies. There's some frequencies that have to be boosted, so it has to be kind of tweaked by hand. The doctor works with them. They're about $5,000 for the set, and the insurance company won't pay for a new set until 2016. The school has some hearing aids. I don't know if they're probably not quite the best thing for him that he can use while he's at school. He can't bring them home after school. He can't take them if they go on a family vacation, on the weekends, doing his homework at home. He can only use them while he's at school, which that just strikes me as I can maybe understand the school's got some policy. Everyone's got a policy. I want to get Wayne really riled up. Have an answer that says, we got a policy. It's just so it's a sign. There's a lot of problems with the system in general. That what is their policy based on? Of course, it can be based on money, liability, accountability. But here's a 6-year-old kid who needs to be able to hear. Why does that not rise to the level of action? And the school has them to use. I don't understand that. I can kind of understand why they have the policy. I don't understand why they let those barriers become barriers to and not just say, we're going to go ahead and let him have them. If he loses them, that's what kids do. It happens. I'm not going to not give a kid hearing aids because of it. So that story got me going because of the aspect of the school not really cooperating, the insurance company not cooperating. The family doesn't have the money to redo it. And then what do you go after the family of the kids who threw the hearing aids into the water? They may not have the money. What do? Put the parents in jail because their kids are being bullied? Kids are bullied. It does happen. What needs to happen, though, and Shane and I have talked about this week. Now you got me going. Shane opened the floodgates, got me talking. A big part of growing up, one part of it at least, is the bullying. Kids bullying. That's just what we do as humans. As a young, you're testing your dominance. But what you need is the older kids to step in and to say that it's not okay. Just as natural it is to bully, it is also natural. I don't say it needs to be. It is natural for the older kids to step in and stop it if the older kids are around. The school system I went to in Jacksonville, Florida, after 5th grade, the 6th graders all went to a school, the 6th grade center. There was nobody around but the 6th graders. The 7th graders went to a school. Nobody around. There was a 7th grade center. Nobody around but the 7th graders. So a 7th grader picking on a big 7th grader picking on a little 7th grader, there was nobody to step in because, you know, you're the biggest 7th grader. Maybe that was the biggest kid in 5th grade. He's now the biggest kid in the 6th grade school, the biggest kid in the 7th grade school. Then when he gets to middle school, it's 8th and 9th grade. If you're a big 8th grader, you're probably bigger than a lot of 9th graders. So they're the biggest kid in 8th and 9th grade. You know, you've got this 6-7 years of this kid being a bully, and nobody ever to stop him, to teach him, or to let him know that, hey, this is not okay. We got to get the kids from a wider range, have to have a little bit more closer contact, in my opinion, because if you see a big kid picking on a little kid and you're even bigger, you know, kids, they step in. I went to a small school like that before I went to the school in Jacksonville. It was over in Spain. It was all the kids from 1st grade, not even kindergarten, through 12th grade. We were all on the same campus. We kind of separated the east side of campus, west side of campus. I call it campus. It was just a small school. It was 1,000 students in all the grades combined. So you had access to all the other kids. So if you were a 5th grader picking on a 3rd grader, there was a 7th grader who stopped you, and usually it was a brother or a sister of somebody that you're picking on, you know. So and people stepped up and said, hey, that's not okay, that's not okay. And you learned that it was not okay to bully, and you learn some responsibility. And then as you get older, you become that responsible person who stops the bullying. So you actually learn responsibility. You see it modeled as you're a bully and somebody stops you, but then you get to model it yourself as you get older. You get to step in and say, hey, it's not okay to bully. We don't have that when we separate the kids into these little compartmented ages, and they don't have access to older kids or younger kids. They don't learn to be adults. They don't learn to, you know, class society. You know, you have to have people from all different socioeconomic and powerful. They have to be interacting together. It's learn to live together, and they can model that in school by having big kids and little kids, you know, who have to interact. They don't have to be in the same classroom learning, but they need to be on the same playground. They need to be in the same hallways. They need to be interacting. So that's my rant, and I'm sorry that went on probably a little bit longer than anybody intended, but I apologize for that. But I had to get that.
No, it's okay. Because it did need to be said, and I'm going to actually bring that up a little bit later too. Crystal, are you with us?
I think I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, Crystal has arrived.
Crystal has left the building like 3 times already, I believe.
Yeah. So, like I know that you missed the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I'm not really good at lip reading, so give me a recap.
Just basically that, you know, as I didn't feel like that we really finished the subject of bullying. I believe that you know, that it was just unfinished, and I got a number of different messages from all the different organizations that I'm involved with, whether it be a JGF organization or Arisen Strength, the family, or Serenely Speaking. A number of people came to me and said that there were a number of other ways of bullying that's out there that's not being talked about. And I plainly told them, you know, I can certainly appreciate that. I had no intention of doing every single type of bullying that's out there. But then again, this isn't going to be the only show that we're going to do. But at the same time, I wanted to be able to, you know, finish up, you know, the at least get a good feeling that we, you know, came around and had a full view of what we deal with as bullying and our own experiences, which I think we've covered pretty good, aside from yourself. But then last week you came in at the end and looked at it from a parent's point of view, and I think that's where I really want to get more involved in for this show, because I think that just like Wayne had mentioned today, is that we need to break the cycle of the mentality of the way that people go ahead and utilize to bully. And I think that you were a great ending point for last week's show, kind of like segueing into this show. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm going to say I planned that perfectly. Yeah, I did that. Shane, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I think, everybody is bullied at some point in their life. Being 5'10" and pretty much being 5'10" my life, I really was not bullied because I was taller than everybody else. So I really didn't myself have that problem. But I do see the issue having two children. Now, my kids are 19 and almost 22, and the opportunities that they have been having throughout their lifetime, having access to computers, and how easy it was for even people to get into computers in school classrooms, where supposedly these things are monitored. And being a mentor at the school, I got to actually see pornography being sent to children at schools that are supposed to have these totally lock-safe things down. And that's just always been my big issue. I think bullying is never okay. I've always been one to be for the underdog and stand up for the underdog and push the other kids away. But we're just in another generation of the way that they can bully. The earpieces for that little boy in that story, I mean, that just absolutely, that killed me. Where does that meanness come from? And I think that as far as bullying goes at home, that we can all make an effort to stop it in monitoring what our children do, in monitoring what our children are receiving, because they don't always come to you and say, look, Mom, I'm scared. Somebody's threatened me over the computer. And I'm getting really tired of seeing little 12 and 13-year-old girls and boys hanging themselves in closets. I don't know what else to say, but parents be parents. And look on the computers. Look what your kids are doing. Look what they're receiving. Is there anything else you want me to add to that?
No, I think that you definitely encased it from that parent's point of view. I think that that's something that I wanted to even branch in a little bit further along the show here.
Okay.
But I did want to also bring about something different in regards to bullying. Like we said, there's a ton of different ways that are out there of bullying, anywhere from workplace bullying to animal abuse, and a lot of the things that the reason why you don't hear about a lot of these things are because they're veiled in different ways. For instance, domestic violence is bullying. Assault, and bantering, that's bullying. I mean, there's a number of different things that it's called. But make no mistake, it starts with the mentality that's out there. And that's where I think that as far as Arisen Strength is concerned, that's where I wanna get to is the fact that we're not going to fix this subject. We know that. We're not even the tip of an iceberg, really. But what we can do is that we can broadcast the mentality that needs to change in order for things to make a difference down the road, if not immediately. In regards to animal abuse, Joey had brought up animal abuse, and I know that he has a number of different sites and pages that are for that particular realm of bullying, so to speak. I know that I was terrified when I saw how many different videos that are on YouTube in regards to animal abuse and children. Mm-hmm. It's like Wayne brings up with the fact that, bullying is a part of life and kids are going to do what kids are going to do. The thing is what gets me is it's not the same. When we were kids or something like that, and people started talking, I never abused an animal that I'm aware of that I can think of. But I have heard other people who have done so. And what they did is, like, they tied, like, plastic baggies to a cat's paws. You know what I mean? And the cat didn't know what to do, and crazy. You know, and it didn't like it. Or you know, you turn it around and make it all sorts of dizzy, or whatever the case may be. That was bullying. You know, nowadays, it's just like it is in any other realm of this industry that I call it an industry because it basically is growing. Now, even that goes too far. You know, I watched a video where there was, I don't know, the kid couldn't have been, my God, he couldn't have been 6 years old. And what he did, his parents gave him a cat for his birthday, and it was relatively grown cat, so I'm assuming that it probably came from a shelter or something like that or whatever. And so anyways, here's this little boy, young boy, and he, for whatever reason, did not want the cat to go inside the house. Now, I don't know why he didn't want the cat to go inside the house, but I know how determined he was that he was not going to let the cat go inside the house. Because he literally picked the cat up, walked his way out to the end of his driveway, and there is a paved road of which have cars go by at the end of his driveway, and he launched that cat out into the middle of the road. So now I'm like, okay, well, that's different. So then next thing you know, the cat, he gets up and he's like, I don't know why you did that, but I'm coming, back to go into the house. So the cat makes his way back to the house. The boy, again, picks up the cat, walks on the way, and launches him in the middle of the road. Now, I'm not going to make this longer than what it needs to be. The boy did this 5 times. The last time, the cat didn't get up, right? The cat was hurt because it landed on its back. Now, ask me how it is that I know that there's this video.
How do you know this video's there?
Because the next door neighbor, of which is right there, and remember I said it before, everybody's got a cell phone, therefore everybody's got a video camera.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is that the next door neighbor is sitting there videotaping this young boy throwing the cat out in the middle of the street 5 times before he says, "What are you doing?"
Wow.
Now, the boy is startled, right? He's like, oh my God, I didn't know I wasn't the only one out here. So what's he do? He runs into the house. Now, okay, the first time, I get. You might have been surprised, just as much as I was surprised to watch the kid carry his cat out to the out to the end of his driveway and launch it out in the middle of the road. Fine. That's once. Twice? 3 times? 4 times? 5 times? Before you say, "What are you doing?" And guess what? At the minute that he said, "What are you doing?" the kid took off and went inside the house. What if the guy had said it the second time?
Mm-hmm.
That cat wouldn't have been injured, wouldn't have been terrorized any more than what it already is. This kid is launching it out in the middle of the road for a reason. I'm not altogether sure what that reason is, but he knows that cars go back and forth, right? So, and it takes 5 times before somebody says something. He just sits there and videotapes it. That's the mentality that has to stop.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't okay. It's not okay. It's not okay for a human. It's not okay for an animal. It's like if there were droids out here and robots out here, it's not okay for them either. It's just the bottom line is that let's change things. Change the way that people think. Value what other people are. It's like that's what Arisen Strength is to put a value on who you are. And then you sit there and it's like it carries on. It's like pay it forward. You know, it's like it moves forward. It's a movement that goes out. It's a ripple effect that all of a sudden has people start saying, you know what? I value myself, so I better damn well value somebody else or someone and something else. You know, and you know, it's like this is what I'm finding, right? As I'm trying to be calm and as I'm trying to, you know, not get emotional and everything. These are the things that I'm finding. Another thing that I find was when I was talking about, you know, how bullying it seems to be pinpointed towards mental illness, whether it be autistic or Asperger's or whatever the case may be. I come against this little story here, and it is two young teenage girls who actually sat there and made an 11-year-old do things that are unspeakable, both sexually and just physically. They kicked him in the groin. They pulled his hair out. They got him to walk on a frozen lake, knowing that the ice was thin. They when he actually fell through. He fell through a couple times. That's how they knew it was thin. Okay. They didn't help him get out. He pulled himself out. Then, as he got out, they took him and they put a knife to his throat, and sitting there and saying that this is, you know, you know, that they were going to kill him, and giving him, you know, basically threatening his life. I wouldn't say threatening his life. I think they had every intention of doing something to him. You know, this is what we're talking about now. We are not talking about mere words. We're not talking about things that are, you know, oh, that's just kids being kids. Really? That's kids being kids? Now, I know some people are saying, you know, it's like, okay, yeah, you're bringing out a few different topics, a few different stories and everything like that. Okay, that's fine. Boy with autism severely beaten at Liberty Middle School while teacher watches. Okay? Teacher, what it was is that this boy had Asperger's. He was known to call people names. He was known to also be somewhat physical. He pushed people away from him. Now, everybody knew that he was mentally challenged. Everybody, including the teacher. The teacher literally watched a boy physically manhandle this young man in her class. And get this, she's not suspended. She was moved in the district to another school. That's how the school handled it. And you want to know what the school said? The school said the kids need to figure this out on their own.
Oh, boy.
Okay? That is the official standing of this school in regards to this incident and bullying in general. They believe that the kids need to figure this out on their own. Another one is to where there's two young men who are in, I think it was Iowa. I believe it's Iowa. Where they took a 14-year-old autistic boy and they threatened his life, laughing. Now there's a video of this one. Laughing all the time, saying that they were going to kill him and that they were going to put him inside a dog cage with a dog. It looked like a Rottweiler. The Rottweiler wasn't even like mean or nothing, but he was like, "What the hell are you doing in my cage?" type of thing. And so they go ahead and they torment him. They put, again, a knife to his throat. You know, I mean, these are, and then the father went ahead and pressed charges on him, thankfully, and now they're in the juvenile detention on $20,000 bail for doing this to this young man, of which now is terrorized and has night terrors ever since. This is what we're talking about now. We're not talking about what used to be. You know, it's like, it's not about going and just, okay, yeah, you're being bullied. Well, don't back down. Go in and show them that you're not going to be bullied around. Fight back. That's the what used to be. That's the way it used to do. Well, now we're coming into the play of before we go into policies and the laws that are in place. I wanted to go to Joey. Joey, what do you think about those stories that I just talked to you about?
Anger-filled, actually, very anger-filled. Trying to laugh it off right now because I could really bash some heads in right now. But me personally, I cannot believe those stories. How teachers could stand by and watch kids beat the hell out of each other and say, well, it's the kids that have to work it out. Well, why don't the teacher step in as the figure that they're looking for the teacher to be? Have the teacher step in and say, break it up, everything will be okay, and let's work things out together with the teacher involved, instead of having the kids having to work it out, where the kids are not going to work it out, they're just going to keep fighting, So more or less that really bothered me, and the whole story with the kid walking out on the ice. I mean, come on, that's just stupid. That's just ignorance, and that's just like stupidity, Yeah, I mean, that happens to a lot of disabled mental children, people that have that autism or Asperger's or, something wrong with them mentally. They have issues like this, unfortunately, to say, well, we could bother them because they won't know what they're doing. They won't know what they're doing, so we could just tell them to walk out on that ice and they could fall in and die, but we don't have to say that we had any part in that. We just told them to go and walk out on the ice. Oh, well, you're sort of aiding and abetting the person to walk out on the ice and die, in the water. So to me, it's more than taking lunch money now. It's more than spraying Nair in your hair. It's more than burning somebody's locker. It's now you're beating somebody up, you're killing somebody, or somebody is killing themselves because of the bullying, it's really gotten to a point where people are losing their lives because of bullying, and that's not right. But also you have to keep in mind the animal situation. Speciesism, ladies and gentlemen. It's called speciesism. Humans versus animals, basically. And there's so many different ways you can bully an animal, too. I mean, not just throwing them in the middle of the street and have them hurt. That's one form of bullying, okay? Physically harming an animal. You could be yelling at an animal, too. Or you could have, like I said, these pit bull fights where they just have these animals fight each other and eat each other up. And you see that at the end of what this heinous act, what these poor dogs look like because they haven't been fed, and they basically eat each other. It's just really, it's just sad. It's just sad what they have them do. But not only that, but what about the unfortunate puppy mills and kitty mills? What they do there. And what about the unfortunate warehouses where they chop up these poor animals so we have to eat? But I mean, do we really have to eat, a living being? I mean, I know I eat meat, I eat fish, so I can't say that I'm a good person by eating an animal that was basically maimed in a warehouse, okay? But there are people out there that are vegans that don't eat meat, because they refuse to eat an animal that had to suffer, through these warehouses, But not only that, ladies and gentlemen, look at the circuses, look at places like SeaWorld and what they do to these animals, okay? What they do to the fish, what they do to the orcas and the dolphins, make them perform for entertainment. That's another form of bullying, ladies and gentlemen. There you go, making animals perform for you, People pay money to watch these animals perform, okay, and especially the circuses where they give them drugs, they drug them out, these poor animals. That's a form of bullying, ladies and gentlemen, against animals. Okay, so that angers me. And not only that, but what about these bullfights over in Spain? That's another thing. Look at these bullfights. They're hitting these animals. They're killing these animals at certain points, because they have to say, oh, well, I got to protect my life. Well, why are you running in front of a bull? Okay, why are you running in front of a bull, first of all? Okay, a bull is a wild animal. Why are you running in front of a bull, you jackass? And it's more or less that, people need to start thinking, ladies and gentlemen. People need to start think and slow down and think, where are we going with this? Okay? We are going to this point to say, stop the bullying already. Okay? Just stop it. It doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to be there, okay? And you have these people that continue to do it, okay, continue to do this, and it angers a lot of people like me, like Shane, like Wayne, like Crystal, and a whole bevy of other people out there. Look what they do to these poor babies in child abuse. They throw them around like they're dolls, okay? They pick them up and throw them against the wall, okay? What is that doing to the kid? Is that discipline? Are you disciplining your kid by throwing him against the wall? I think you're killing him. That's what I think what you're doing. I think you're killing the poor thing, throwing him against the wall. It's just unbelievable what happens, And I saw a video, like Shane saw videos, I saw a video. And it hurt to watch this video. It was a little girl and a little boy. And the mothers were having the little boy and the little girl fight, pull their hair out, punch out, but yet when the kids said, I don't want to do this anymore, the mothers pushed their kids together and wanted them to fight more. Why, I have no idea, but this was in a foreign country, and I was watching this video, and these poor kids were beating the crap out of each other, and they were little kids. They were little kids. They were less than 10 years old. Less than 10 years old, these kids were. And they were beating the crap out of one another, pulling each other's hair out, okay? And it was very hard to watch this. And the mothers allowed it to happen. What's the matter with these moms? I thought it was motherly, love or whatever it is. It didn't look like motherly love there. I mean, maybe you could, Crystal, you could talk to that. I don't know. I have no idea what was going on with these two mothers. But, that's all I have to say about that. I'm just pissed off about this topic. Basically.
Well, no, I appreciate. I can tell that you're passionate about this subject as much as I am. Crystal, before we get into when we talk about our celebration of the night, what are some things that are going through your mind?
Gee, there's a lot, and you referenced people saying, well, you didn't cover this, or you need to cover this. You could do every day a show on bullying 365 days a year and still not cover everything. So that, it's a lot to try to condense into just a few sentences. I want to say that I really appreciate teachers. One of my friends that was a kindergarten teacher is in the chat room there somewhere tonight, because I see her little face. And she is one of the ones that are among the many that protect these children, that educate these children. I have a very high degree of respect for teachers and their ability to function these kids that we have integrated into so-called, quote, normal classrooms. It is hard. It's hard dealing with a challenging child, whether it's a physical disability or a mental disability. So I wanted to give a kudos to the teachers, those ones that Sandy Hook, that gave their life protecting those kids. There's your motherly instinct. You don't have to be a mother to have it, as Joey was referencing earlier. As far as these women that are getting their kids to fight, well, that's the society we're living in, where you get paid for YouTube videos now. And you get paid for these things. You're getting money for this stuff. And you're putting your children's life way below the value of money. So no, you don't deserve to be a kid. And if it were my children, I guarantee you that I would probably be sitting in jail if a teacher did that with one of mine. There's your motherly instinct. Animals, it's just sad. They're defenseless. They don't have a voice. Children aren't going to talk to you either, and you really do have to be aware of the signs, and that kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier, watching for changes in behavior in your kids. But animal abuse, there's no sense for it. I'm glad we're doing awareness things. I'm glad petitions are getting signed. I'm glad SeaWorld's not going to be doing things, that the circus is not going to be having elephants. I think we make a difference, but we do it one step at a time.
Yeah, that's well said. You notice that I said we were going to get back to the policies that are in place and the laws that are in place in order to help those who are bullied. And I purposely just kept on going with what it is that we were talking about, because the reality of the situation is that there really is no law in place. There's really no bullying policy that's in place, unless if it's by an individual organization or group or what have you. And even that has very little legal standing. And that's definitely concerning, because then you're leading people at home in order to try to fight the battles either for their kids or through their kids, or even young adults, to where things can definitely get out of hand these days. I mean, I brought up some subjects, I brought up some stories that are out there, and believe me, there are a ton more that are not on YouTube, that are not on Google, that are not on Yahoo search engine or anything like that. There's a ton that are out there that we don't even know about. We're just talking about the ones that all I had to do was put bullying, and I put a bullying autistic child, and boom, it's like there's a whole list of things, or bullying an Asperger's child, and again, a whole list. So since there's not policies that are in place, and since there's not laws that are in place, that really, just like Crystal says, it really does fall on the family. It really does fall on the parents, as to where it's up to you, the parents, to break that mentality that's out there. Joey had mentioned the fact that the mere fact that the bully that's actually doing all the bullying is probably got their own issues going on at home. They have their own self-esteem things going on. They have their own abuse that's going on. And I'm not saying that this condones anything that's being done, but there definitely is a reason why they became the way that they became. And so, they're just as much of a victim as anybody who's been bullied. It's just that their story's not in the paper. Their story's not on YouTube. Their stories, that's the story that you don't see. So it is up to our family. It is up to our household to basically help our children become as well-rounded as they possibly can. Get them involved into intramurals. Get them involved in different things, as to where there's other friends that they can be around, to where there's a group that's around surrounding your child, or whatever the case may be. Don't settle for a child to be alienated. That's a big symptom. That's a big sign that there's a problem, whether it be that they're being bullied or whether that they're a bullier, because alienation, isolation, these are the types of things that is a big sign saying that there's something wrong. So don't just think, well, they'll grow out of it, or, well, he's got his own, it's his way of doing things. No, you need to ask. You need to find out what's going on. Be more involved. And I'm not trying to say that I know what it's like to be a parent. I'm not trying to say that at all. What I am is I'm imploring other parents that are out there with their kids to be as active as possible, because your kids are worth it. Your kids are valued. I'm sure that every single parent would say the same thing. But sometimes when you look the other way, you just don't realize it. That's what's happening. So that's what I really wanted to bring, was that mentality needs to stop. And that's the only way that it's going to stop is through the household, through the family, through the parents, through the role models, for our kids to learn from. Because another thing, these kids that are holding knives to other people's throats and everything and such like that, do you think they just came up with that idea?
No.
I mean, it's like, they didn't just come up with that idea. They saw that somewhere. They saw it either in person themselves, or they saw it on some sort of video that's out there, or entertainment that's out there. This is the type of thing that drives me crazy, is the fact that there is a lot of things that are on television and on the internet that is being learned from, good and bad. And so, it's like, that I'm saying is that what Arisen Strength as a whole wants to bring awareness to that mentality, and to not only for this subject, for all subjects that we deal with, is the fact that a person has a value, and everybody is the same value as anybody else. And the minute that we start working on that behalf is the minute that life starts to be a lot better. So before we start do our celebration, Wayne, what do you have to say about the subjects that we brought up today?
One, I thought Joey brought up a good point with the dolphins and the orcas at SeaWorld. There's a great documentary out there, Blackfish. If you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend seeing it. It's really heartbreaking, not only for the animals, which that's really the story, but the people who are telling the story are, for the most part, former trainers of these animals who, at the time they were doing it, they were very young, in their 20s, in their early 20s. They were dedicated to these animals. They loved these animals. They really thought they were doing the right thing. But they came to realize that these animals were not meant to be in captivity, not in their small pens. They needed to be released. And to see these people, you could just see it in you could hear their voices, you could see their faces. It really changed their world, coming to that realization. It's because it was the best time of their lives when they were doing this and working with these animals. They loved these animals, and they did not have any malice toward these animals whatsoever. It's really it's an amazing movie, Blackfish. It's tearful. And then Crystal referenced it, and Joey mentioned it earlier, and then Crystal mentioned it about the Ringling Brothers getting rid of the elephants from their circus in the next couple of years. It's going to take them a couple of years to phase them out, 2017 or something like that. But they sort of made that commitment that, we're going to get elephants out of the circus. There's going to be other animals are still in there. Haven't gotten away from that. The whole Circus of Soleil is great because it's like a circus of humans. Let's get the animals out of the circus, and what can we do for people to see? And then now focus on the human form, and that's a great thing as a Cirque du Soleil. I've always enjoyed those, but I'm very happy to see that Ringling Brothers, Barnum Bailey, whatever, has made this commitment to get the elephants out of their circus. And with the kids, and then you brought up, Shane, with the these kids start bullying for a reason, and Joey mentioned it, and we all sense that. And yes, bullying is, that's kind of a go-to mechanism for people who are hurting. I mean, those of us in recovery, we know about maladaptive skills, we know about self-medicating, we know about when you don't really know what your choices are. You latch onto something and you hold on to it, and that's just what works for you. And it can be devastating to your life and the people around you. And these kids are getting started into this bullying for a reason, and we have to be sensitive to that. But as Barney Fife would say from the Andy Griffith Show, nip it in the bud. And that gets back to what I was talking about. When you have all the kids from a lot of different ages there, when the bullying starts at a very young age, there's an older kid that can step in and nip it in the bud. And it kind of reminds me of these teachers who are saying this now, oh, let the kids handle it, the kids handle it, the kids handle it. I could almost understand them saying that, because when I went to school, we let the kids handle it, and it worked. But that's because we were in a system where it worked. To tell these kids, oh, let the kids handle it. If you're not in a system where you have a small group of kids, not 1,000 eighth graders, but but 1,000 kids from 5 years old to 18 years old. Now you got to there's fewer kids of each age group. They're all intermingling. Then you can kind of let the kids handle it, and they'll do a good job. But you can't just throw it out as like, oh, well, when I was a kid, we let the kids handle it, so let the kids handle it today. No, Shane mentioned it. Things have changed, and things have changed. And a lot of times we have to ask, is it really worth the change? I mean, is it worth it to have a school system like where I went to, where we have a 6th grade center, where we have a 7th grade center, where the 8th and 9th graders go together, and then the 10th through 12th graders go together, and these schools are miles apart from each other. It's not like they're right next to each other. So you don't have any interaction with kids at any different age than you. Is that a good thing? If you put all those kids, 10,000 kids, then there's going to be the mob mentality, and the anonymity is going to kick in, and Joey talked about that on the internet, and that's dangerous. So keeping it small reduces the anonymity. Having the diversity of ages gives you that sort of self-regulation that makes sense, where kids can go through the system and they learn to be the small kid, they learn to be the medium kid, they learn to be the older kid, they see it. They don't get to grow up being a bully, because you start being a bully, and if no one's there to stop you, then you continue to be a bully, you continue to be a bully. Before you know it, you're only a bully. It's a heartbreaking story, and I'll end it here, because I could really go on forever, as all of us could. This is a subject that touches us, and we could talk about it. It was a story from a couple of years ago, and it's a relatively close story for us, but it's actually from where I was living before I came here, actually in Greece, New York, which is a little suburb or town just outside of Rochester. It was the bus monitor, who was bullied by the middle school kids. You may remember this story from a couple of years ago. She was getting close to retirement age, and she was being bullied by the kids, the middle schoolers on the bus. They were videotaping it, but there was a huge outcry. There was a GoFundMe page set up for her, and they actually raised about $700,000 for her. I'm not sure if she did with all the money, but she was able to use a portion of it to retire. They were hoping, the person who started it was hoping to get $5,000 to send her on a well-needed vacation, a well-earned vacation, and it ballooned to like $700,000. And that was it's this amazing story. I got people talking about bullying, but then just within the last month, another story out of Greece, New York. Another bullying case. This time not in middle school, but in high school. And it was a kid who was forcing a mentally challenged, I think it's autistic or just some child younger than him, to drink urine from the toilet. And it was one of the kids from the bullying incident on the bus. And it was, as angry as the story made me read it, it broke my heart to see that, because here was a kid where we had a chance, when I say we, I mean as a society, we had a chance to intervene, and maybe it was too late. I mean, did we not intervene, or was it too late? Even by the time that he was a middle school kid bullying the bus monitor, was it already too late for this kid? Because here he is 2-3 years later, and apparently he's escalated, and no remorse. But maybe if something had started earlier, in 3rd grade or 4th grade, where he tried to do some bullying, and an older kid, kind of said, the older kid doesn't beat you up. The older kid can just model behavior. Hey, that's not cool. You shouldn't be picking on little kids. One reason you shouldn't be picking on little kids is there's bigger kids around here than you.
And then, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you learn that lesson, and then you end up getting out of that bullying phase. You can nip it in the bud. The bullying is natural, but if you don't nip it in the bud, it becomes a learned behavior. And then once it's a learned behavior, it's a hard habit to kick. Anybody who's been through recovery knows. You know, just one thing to say, oh yeah, just one day at a time. Don't drink, don't drug, don't gamble. You know, don't just jump into bed with anybody. Whatever your addiction is, it's one thing to kind of intellectualize, oh yeah, that's the wrong thing to do. It's another thing to actually live that life where you're doing something different. So to look at these middle school kids and say, stop bullying, it's a lot to ask. They're just going to turn it off if it's already gotten to a point where it's like part of them. We have to nip it in the bud before it becomes part of them. That means we have to raise our voices in these situations. You know, Arisen Strength is not just for the bully, the person who's being bullied. The Arisen Strength is for those of us who witnessed the bullying. And letting our kids know, hey, it's okay to stop bullying. It's okay to intimidate. You know, intimidate is not the right word. It's okay to model the behavior to younger kids. When you see them bullying, and say, hey, that's not a cool thing to do. Look at yourself. Look at me, and look at you. You really think this is a good idea? The golden rule kind of thing. Oh, all right. So thanks a lot, Shane, for giving me a chance to vent. Thanks a lot, Joey and Crystal. You know, I appreciate a chance to kind of go through this. But get stuck inside and let it go. Thanks.
Well, it's like Crystal said, we could do this show every day, probably for a year straight, and we'd still have material to work with, and we'd still have emotions to deal with. Unfortunately, we have an hour, and we've already gone past that. So, but I wanted to definitely get to this story in regards to our celebration part, because I think that's a large. It's a thing that is necessary within our Arisen Strength concept, is not only to support and encourage or empower, but to celebrate for those who actually exhibit what the Arisen Strength concept really is. And I go to this story, and it's called "A Brave Kid with Autism Confronts His Bullies." And what it was is that there was this young man, his name's Jake, and his last name is withheld for what could be obvious reasons. He was actually somebody who the Bully Project, it's a film project that's out right now, I believe, is to where they were following him, and he had some issues in regards to bullying in the past, and so they were following him, and it just so happens they were playing a game, and he wasn't really getting involved. He wasn't being allowed to play as much as he thought that he could play. So without being able to show the video, I can only tell you is that Jake got up, stood up in the middle of the gymnasium, and proceeded to talk to the kids that he feels were bullying him. In this way, bullying was they were ignoring him, and he has autism, but he's still functioning pretty well. But this is what he had to say to the group of kids that he well knows, because he goes to school with them every day. He says with a wince, collecting himself, "I don't think you guys see me for me. I think you guys see me as a big target. You guys are always leaving me out of stuff, never paying attention to me or anything I say. I want to try to be your friend, but you don't want to try to be mine." He continues that really makes him feel bad. Since then, he went and he's since said that after he did that little speech, that he went to the filmmakers, the Upworthies, of which are doing the actual Bully Project, and he said that things are better. That is, a great example. It's just like the example last week, as to where we have a young man who doesn't resort to violence, doesn't resort to emotional outbursts. He simply gets up in a restrained manner, and he tells people what it is that he's feeling and thinking. And that I really want to, I definitely want to give that man a clap of the hands.
Hey.
Because Jake used his arisen strength within him to be able to voice his opinion, to be able to voice his thoughts and his feelings. And he was able to do that in a way that wasn't going to create more of an issue than what it already was. And so that's something that we definitely like to bring awareness to. He's an outstanding young man, and I hope that things get better for him as time goes along. Those are the types of examples that we like to use because that is really strength. It has nothing to do with violence. It has nothing to do with threats or anything in that sense. It's strength within, and that's what arisen strength is all about. So I know that we went a little bit past the time here. I'm going to say, Joey, thank you for your time and for your words of encouragement and information that you have in regards to bullying and animal abuse. Crystal, I would say thank you for your time, because you definitely brought another side from the parents' point of view that I really feel that was necessary for this show to be complete. And of course, Wayne, I want to say thank you for your experiences and even your rants, because it only shows that that we all care. We're not doing this show for money. We're not doing this show for fame or any of that. We're doing this show because we all care. And when you care, you have some emotion attached to it. So, that's what Arisen Strength is all about. So, folks, I just want to say thank you for watching the show, and we're going to be back again next week, and we'll have another subject that we're going to talk about. I hope it's as entertaining as this has been for the last two shows. So I want to say thank you and have a good night.
Take care. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.